real question is, can you hear me over the cicadas? Because the cicadas are really loud. I will move. I will move when this video's over. I think the last time I posted was like in June, I want to say. And it's currently like almost mid-August, and I haven't posted anything. So it's been too hot to go out and do anything, and it's been like every time I walk outside I'm like wet, which is not really the vibe for what we're going for. But enough people were asking me for an update that I figured I would give an update. So I walked to the park today because it's like in the mid 80s, low 90s. And I figured I'd do some tarot in the park. So that's what we're doing here. We're in Ueno Park. It's bumping. Cool. And the other big thing, on the 29th of July, I turned 28 years old. Which is pretty big. Can you stop screaming? So I turned 28 years old. Which is big for me, because I was one of those really emo kids who never thought I would live to see 20, let alone 28, which is wild. I'm in my late 20s now. I'm past my early 20s. I'm past my mid 20s. I am in my late 20s solidly. I am closer to 30 than I am to 16, which was really where the line for me was. I didn't think I would last this long, but here we are, and we're in Japan. Things are going places. I don't know where those places are yet, and that's okay. But here are just some things that I learned in my early 20s that I wish I had known earlier, because I feel like it's a really, it is a really tumultuous time for everyone. Just, if you ask astrology, it's a perfection year. 25 is, I believe. 23 is. I think it's a 9th house perfection year, I want to say. But basically, everything for everyone at that age goes wrong, because everything has to die and fall apart and break in order to build. You know what? We might move. It is quite loud here. Let's move. I have stacked a number of things in order to create a tripod, and none of them make sense. Here's some things that I learned in my early to mid 20s that I wish I learned earlier. Number one, it's not that deep. Life is also like really short, but also insufferably long. And I think when we are in our early to mid 20s, we get into these ruts of thinking that everything we do matters, and everything we say matters, and everywhere we go matters, and every little part of it matters. And I think the reality of it is just that, like, not a lot of it does matter. A lot of it is kind of irrelevant and silly. Life is really silly. If you let yourself believe that life is just really funny, a lot less things will affect you long term. I think that's probably healthier. It's just not that deep. It's just not that deep. Another thing I really wish I had learned earlier is that there are people in your life that are just not going to like you, and that's okay. There's a lot of people on this planet, and they're not all going to vibe with you, and they're not all going to appreciate what you have to say, and they're not all going to enjoy your presence, and that just means that those are not your people. it doesn't have to be this huge rejection that I think a lot of us feel, especially in our teens and early 20s. That's just not your group. That's just not your crowd. Those aren't your people. Because you will find your people. There's a lot of time on earth to find the people that are your people. Another really big thing that I think would have changed my life genuinely if I had learned earlier is that if you have to beg someone to enjoy your company, and if you have to beg someone to stay, and it doesn't feel like love, and it feels like high stakes and dramatic, then it's toxic. If it feels like it's excessive effort to keep, it's not worth keeping. I kept a lot of people in my life who not only didn't like me, but who hurt me, like emotionally and sometimes even physically hurt me. And I kept them around just because I figured that was the best that I could get, because I think I was just really insecure. If it feels really high stakes, it feels passionate. And if it feels passionate, it feels like it's worth a lot more than it really is. And what it actually is, in reality, is you making this, and the other person too, making this excessive effort to force something that isn't meant to be in either of your lives. And you can, in fact, just walk away from it and be better for it and save a lot of damage for yourself in the future. And I think when I was younger, I just thought that there was nothing else. Like, this person loves me, therefore that's it, that's the end. At one point I was engaged to a partner who caused me severe damage that I genuinely 10 years later still have flashbacks to and still have to go to therapy for in order to just live my life normally. And I think I could have saved myself a lot of time and a lot of damage and a lot of like forced connection that didn't need to be there if I had just like accepted that life moves on, which I wasn't ready to do at the time. On a lighter note, people staring at you because you're being weird in public, not offensive, just weird, just doing something different, it really doesn't mean anything, and you're never going to see them again in your life, and none of that matters if you just decide that you're the main character in your story. Nothing you do matters. None of this matters. Life is just this big fun joke that the universe decided to play on us. One thing I wish I had learned... we love her. One thing I wish I had learned, get a credit card. I know they're scary, and there are millions of horror stories about them, but get a credit card. Pay your phone bill on your credit card every month, and then pay your credit card as if it's your phone bill. And that'll bump up your credit really fast and really significantly. And then proceed to actually keep up with it, which is where I went wrong, because I left the country and now I don't make money in US dollars. But that aside, I think my other big thing that I wish I'd done earlier that I didn't manage to do earlier is travel. You should travel. The money will come back. What won't come back is the time that you spent being young and capable and healthy, sitting at home doing nothing, which I know the pandemic kind of put a damper on all of that for all of us, but big thing that I learned rather recently is that little of what you do actually matters. Like, little of it actually matters or means anything. Because at the end of the day, we're all just kind of doing the same things. And I know that that doesn't sound like good advice, but I think once you accept that, like, a lot of what you do really doesn't make much of a ripple. Like, all eyes are not on you all the time. I think that can ease, like, a lot of anxiety. Of course people are staring at me. Like, I'm not gonna front about that. Of course people are staring at me. People are giving me looks. But also, they're walking away and not speaking to me. And at the end of the day, I have this documentation that I was here doing this thing, saying these words, which I think means a lot more to me than someone glaring at me for all of half a second, you know? I think the other big thing, and maybe this is just me being cynical, being a cynical nihilist, there's no time limit on anything. We all think there's this little time limit. Like, you have to do all this stuff before you're 30. You have to get married before you're 25. You have to do this. You have to do that. You have to be successful by this age. Did you know a lot of people are not actually successful until they're well into their 40s? Oprah, for example, wasn't a big deal until she was in her 50s. And I think we need to remove this stupid little time limit that we put on ourselves, because you know what happens when you turn 30? Nothing happens when you turn 30. You don't evaporate when you turn 30. In fact, life does go on. That guy that just walked past me just gave me the funniest smile when I said that. Life doesn't stop happening just because you turn 30. You actually will probably be alive for another, 50 to 70 years. You've only made it to 30. You don't know what 50 or 70 years looks like. So how can you possibly say, like, with everything you've accomplished up until 30, right? Even if that isn't much, you have twice that amount of time left. You're only a third of the way through your life. Like, life is really short and also really long, and all you have to do is put your all into it and have fun. Like, it's just not that deep. I think we all want to think that there's a plan, and there just isn't. And that's kind of comforting. You just exist. You're a happy accident. Isn't that, like, really cool? And then lastly, I think my last piece of advice, and this is my personal experience and my personal opinion, so you don't have to take this, but I want to at least say it. I think the purpose of all of this, like the world around us, existence, is love and joy. And I think if it doesn't bring us love or joy, there is no purpose to it after all, actually. It should either make you happy, make you learn something, or connect you with another piece of society that you weren't prior connected to or previously connected to. I mean, not to be like the meaning of life, but I think if there is a meaning to life at all, I think it's love. And maybe I'll come back to this video in 10 years and I'll feel completely differently. But that's how I'm feeling right now. And I think that's worth documenting, at least for myself. All right. Stay golden.